This true story was sourced from Reddit.
Still shaking as I write this, and it's been a whole day. Not really sure if what happened was real. Probably wouldn't believe it if my car didn't have a massive hole right through the windshield or cuts on my arms from the glass. I left the cafe around 11, locked up just like any other night. No big deal there. All I remember about going to my car was the humidity. It felt like I was walking into a sauna just getting to the car. South Georgia summers had been brutal for most of my life. Swamp air felt heavy just walking through it. I reached to my car. The swamp smell was somehow worse than usual, kind of like a hot exhaust pipe that was tossed in a mud puddle. I started driving slowly. I was exhausted, and now I have a 20-minute drive through the stupid swamp to get home. God, why didn't I leave this town sooner? I want colder weather. Must have gone for a few miles, probably just 5 minutes down the road maybe. Right where the highway looked like a dividing line between the swamp and the long marshlands. The moon was full. I remember that because it was bright. I think I saw the shadow of the thing before I actually saw it. It was subtle at first, but then I noticed something above my car that was flickering in the moonlight. I couldn't really tell what it was, but around here, owls or hawks weren't very uncommon. Hell, we got some of the big seabirds that came inland with the marshes sometimes. It could have just been one of those. I was wrong. It wasn't. I don't know what it was, but that thing for damn sure wasn't a seabird. It was a horrible nightmare for me. It passed me going pretty fast, just zoomed right over the car and further down the highway. I just kind of shrugged it off. The moon went behind a cloud then, leaving the road dark save for my headlights. Maybe it was a typical muscle reaction on the dark roads. I flipped my brights on. What a fucking mistake. It was standing in the road now, maybe 500 feet away. The thing was tall and looked like its head was about to take out some of the branches over the road. I don't know if it was waiting for me, but I could see these sickly green glowing orbs where its head was. They were reflecting brightly in my headlights, and the detail that I could see as I got closer made me feel sick. I didn't know what to do. I sure as shit wasn't stopping, I knew that. But what the hell was this thing? It was huge and looked like it was naked. There were these bloody bristles coming off the skin, all over. The legs and arms were way too long for the body, and it looked like there was a third pair of arms right down the middle of it. I started to notice something translucent right behind it, flickering in the brights. I couldn't even put it together at the time that they were wings. No, I saw its full face, and that froze my blood. I could feel my breath catch. Ugly is the most basic way to say it. The big green eyes were just staring at me, with that weird hexagonal look that flies have too. It was just looking me down though, and that's when I noticed that something else was moving. The lower half of its face was just unfurling, extending longer and longer until it almost looked longer than the entire torso. It was getting closer, but I wasn't slowing down. All I could feel was my heart pumping. The radio was distant, like it was coming out of the swamps instead of my speakers. Despite the warm air my AC was recycling from outside, I was ice cold. I think it leaped at me. I honestly don't remember because I floored the damn car. Heard the engine of my little sedan rev like it never has, and suddenly this thing was on my hood. It stood itself up, looking at me through the windshield and pulling its head back. Then it lunged forward, piercing through the glass and sending shards flying. The cuts on my arms are stinging like a bee. It was off mark and stabbed right into the side of the seat beside me. Didn't even have time to think. That thing must have been sharp because it punched right through the seat and out the back. It reared its head back for another go. Guess it realized it didn't hit. But once the needle went out of my windshield, I hit the brakes hard. Thought I snapped my goddamn neck when I did, but it did the job. The mysterious creature was thrown hard, landing on the road a few feet from where I skidded to a stop. I was just frozen at this point. I don't know what's going on, what the hell this thing is, or even how I'm going to report this to my insurance. I just want to go home, and I'm sure that it wasn't a hallucination at all. The damn thing was still on the ground, so I took my chance, hit the gas, and got the hell out of Dodge, hitting probably 90 going down the highway now. The moon came out and I looked in my rear view, but I couldn't see it anymore. That doesn't mean I was slowing down. Hell with that. I'm going home and locking my doors. I was too focused on the skies, making sure there was nothing up there that I didn't notice. The car peeling out of the median behind me, lights coming on flashing. Leave it to Georgia State Patrol to pull you over at the worst time. I had a few seconds to think whether I wanted to keep going and risk getting taken down by GSP or stop and do the pullover. If anything, the hole in the windshield and my seat might be a good case against a speeding ticket. The cops started getting closer, coming up behind me with lights on. I tried looking up above again, giving one last look for my own safety before I even thought about slowing down. The moon was sliding behind clouds again, though, casting shadows over us once more. Apparently, the officer was impatient because I felt his bumper tap the back of my car. Okay, I had to slow down and pull over at this point. Whatever happens, this is one of the officers not to piss off, apparently. I slowed down pretty fast, and he did the same. We barely made it off the side of the road before he was out of his car and huffing over. I put my window down a little, hands on the steering wheel. I'll just make my case, show him the windshield, tell him I got scared. Not like stray bullets haven't gone through cars in redneck country before. If I told him about the unknown creature, he'd probably just take me in for a DWI, mean driving while intoxicated. The next couple of minutes were a blur. He asked me if I knew how fast I was going, which of course I had no damn idea. Then, when he asked for a license and registration, he suddenly just stopped. Like he sorts of trailed off in the middle of it and went really pale. I thought he might have seen the monster. Maybe he would draw his gun or something, but he just stood there. I tried asking him if he was okay, but he was standing up straight now, face over the roof of my car and out of sight. I looked out the passenger side to see what he was looking at and got my answer. The creature was standing just feet away from the other side of the car, most of the top half out of sight. I started shouting, not sure if it was intelligible or not, but I was screaming after a few seconds. Turned back to try and get the officer to do something, and he collapsed backwards, suddenly a massive hole where his left eye was before. Everything after that is a blur. Nothing really makes sense. I hit the accelerator and ran for my goddamn life. I kept an eye on the road, but only saw it move back into the swamp after I drove off. I didn't even stop at the red light when I passed by. As soon as I got back, I rolled the car straight into the yard next to the front door and jumped out as close as I could. Maybe I fell asleep at some point. I just remember falling asleep on the... Anyway, I figure the police will be here soon. God knows there's probably some dash cam footage from the patrol car they've checked by now. Assuming someone found him, but I don't know how they couldn't. Either way, I'm getting the hell out of Georgia. I don't know what that thing was, but the less chance I have to run into it again, the better.